What's the old, can't remember what song it is. I think it's the Ghetto Boys. And it was like, damn, it feels good to be a gangsta, right? Oh, man. They don't make rap music like they used to. Grew up in the 90s as a teenager, and Ghetto Boys and Tupac and all that stuff was the goods. Nowadays, it's crazy. Now I kind of sound like an old grumpy old dude. Anyway, feels good to be back on the barbell is kind of what I'm getting to. Dang, it feels good to be deadlifting again. So we spent almost an entire week up in the hill country, and I did not have access to barbells. Took some bells with me. Was going to be working on my swings, but man, I felt like I was going to have to eat some crow, because in a previous video I was like, I'm not a warm-up guy, and yeah, I don't really spend too much time warming up, and I don't. But like after I published, I think it was day 10, day 11's video, I went out for some swings. This was last Thursday, which would be the day before Christmas Eve. And I had swings scheduled. I had a lot of swings scheduled. I had 36 sets of 6 one-arm swings with a 52 kilo every 40 seconds. That's a lot of work. The previous week I had 30 sets, so this week volume was up. And dude, I'll include some footage of it. I'll include some footage of it in another day. But dude, I had this weird like hip pain on my right side, like deep into my groin. And I don't know, it was hard to describe. It hurt to even get into like a hinge position. It was this deep, numbing, throbbing-ish kind of pain. And I couldn't even rack the kettlebell so the hip pain was on my right, couldn't rack the kettlebell on my left. It hurt so bad. And I tried to muscle through it. I got through like 4 sets of swings, and then I just stopped. I just couldn't. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to grab a lighter bell. I pulled out the 40 kilo, and I was like, I'm just going to work on some skills. I'm going to work on, just a few swings, maybe some goblet squats, see if I can do some two-handed swings. Anyway, I ended up having to crap the whole session, and I was like, geez, here I am. I just said I'm not a warm-up guy. And I just do a fairly short, specific warm up, and I thought I was going to have to eat some crow, but I don't know. I don't know what it was about that day. I don't know if it's just the way I was sitting or who knows what. But second day, back to normal, and got back to Corpus, and I just pretty much walked the rest of the time I was there up in the hills. But anyway, as you can see there, I went through a tiny general warm up, mostly just to move my hips around, and I actually feel really good today. Today feels really good. And today is the first day of variability. So, as I mentioned in my last video, one of the things that I was concerned about was becoming intimidated by the weights, right? And I could see it potentially becoming a problem. And so I talked about the Western powerlifting methods, how traditionally, you start off with light weights, right? Let's say 50% weights, but the volume is higher, right? So you're doing like, sets of 8 for 4 weeks, and then you go up to like 65% weights or so, and then you're doing sets of 5 for 4 weeks. And each week you're kind of going up intensity, right? So let's say week 1, you're starting at 50, the next week it's 60, the next week it's 70, right? So by the time you get to, week 10, you're in that 85% and above, but you're dropping to triples. The problem is it creates this intimidation by the weights by creating an inverse relationship between volume and intensity. So the Soviets discovered that there's actually no inverse relationship between volume and intensity. That sometimes intensity will spike and volume will spike. Sometimes intensity will drop and then volume will drop. which is pretty common in the competition period. And then sometimes they'll go in opposite directions. Sometimes, volume will go up and intensity will go down, right? But you should not intentionally seek to create that inverse relationship, right? And so that's kind of what I'm doing today. So I took some time over the holidays to really think about and plan out the remainder of this 30 days. So here we are on day 12, and what I've got set up here is I think it was like the first 7 days. I ended up doing, let me look at my notes here. I ended up doing like 172 lifts, right? And it crushed me. I did all that within a 7-day period. So on average, that was about 100 lifts a week, which is pretty dang high for the deadlift. On average, depending on the lifter, volume for the deadlift will range between 150 to upwards to 300 lifts within a month. And that is extremely high towards that high end. And I've worked up to the most that I've done is 303 lifts in a month, and that was brutal. But since I'm doing this every single day, I'll actually be able to thin out the volume over the course of 7 days. So I'm going to stick with the same approach where I'm going to be lifting 3 days in a row, and then I'm going to have like some kind of technical day on day 4, and then days 5, 6, and 7 back to lifting 3 days in a row. And so how I'm going to be planning that out is basically, I want to say this week, so days 12, 13, and 14, I'm going to be pulling 140 total reps. And so 140 total reps, the way I'm going to break that out, I'm going to do, out of the 140, I'm going to do 25% of the volume today. That's what you're watching today. So I've only got, I think I ended up doing 14, I believe it was 14 total lifts. I think I've only here in the video, I'm only displaying like 10 repetitions, which actually I miscounted. I don't know what I was thinking, but I miscounted the weights. So I believe this next set that I have coming up here is 180 kilos, I believe. No, actually 152. Well, my next lift coming up is going to be 180, and I thought it should have been 170. But when I was done with my session, I started kind of calculating the weights over again, and I actually pulled 180 for a double, which is not bad considering I'm just now getting back to pulling. Yeah, I think so. I just threw on a 35 there, so basically like a 15 kilo-ish, 16 kilo plate. I threw on a 35 when I meant to throw on a 25, and I think that's what kind of threw things out of whack. So anyway, I end up pulling 180 here, which is about roughly 78% of my maximum. I pull it for a double. But yeah, so what I'm going to be doing here is, for today, day 13 and day 14, I'm going to be doing 25% of the volume today. And then I'm going to be doing 33% of the volume on day 13, and then about 40-ish, 42% of the volume on day 14. Then I'll have a technical day, and I'm basically going to rinse and repeat that cycle, but I'm going to break up the volume distribution a little bit different between days 5, 6, and 7. And I'll get into more of why that is in other episodes, but this is an example of variability. So what the Soviets would do, is this my 180 pull? I think this is my 180 kilo pull here. Yeah, I ended up, it should have been 170, but I mean, not bad. It was actually fairly smooth all the way to the top, and pulled it for a double. So actually felt really good about it. And tell you what, man, like the volume is definitely going to be up like I was doing before, but it's going to be, strategically broken up over all these different weights. So now I'm going to get ready to go up. This is where I miscalculated again. And I was supposed to pull 207 kilos which is about 455 is what I had scheduled. Again, not sure what the heck I was thinking. And the reason why you probably see me cycle through like these black clip plates and those big weightlifting collars, the reason for that is those big weightlifting collars are 2.5 kilos. So it's like adding, 5.5 pounds per side. So whenever I need that extra 5 pounds, I use the big heavy collars because that adds 5 kilos in total. Each one's 2.5. So anyway, I was supposed to pull 207 kilos, but I think I end up switching back to those weighted collars, and I end up pulling 211 kilos, which is about 466. And I wasn't supposed to pull that much. I was supposed to pull 90%. This ended up being 92%, but I actually pulled it pretty good. A fairly good single there at 211 kilos. So as I was saying, the Soviets, what they noticed was, as they started studying all the the great lifters of the past, all the Soviet champions, they noticed that they had the highest gains. They had the highest gains when there was a plus or minus 20% change in volume. Okay. This is in the StrongFirst system. This is known as the Delta 20 principle, right? And it's got to be a minimum 20%. There'll be times, and also, I think it was Professor Ermakov. He was one of Vorobyev's, kind of like his, how would I say this? One of his students. He did a study on sharp changes in load. And what he discovered was the athletes that had a sharper change in volume saw a 61% increase in performance, right? So a sharp change in volume could be, let's say, day one, you hit, let's just say 10 lifts. So if you did a 20% increase from day one, you'd be looking at, what would that be? 12, 13 reps, right? So day two, you would want to do, 12 reps to 13 reps, something like that. I believe that's a 20% increase. But a sharp change would be like going from, let's see here, 1.2, be 12 reps, right? So if you did a standard 20% change, you'd be looking at 12 reps. But a sharp change in load, let's say you did a 50% increase and you went with 15 reps, that sharp change in volume would, through their studying of just studying the empirical data, actually showed the sharpest returns, strongest. They were stronger, they came back, and they were actually recovered faster also compared to other lifters that didn't follow this, and they were coming to training fatigued. And so that's what I'm doing today. That's what I'm going to be moving toward the rest of this cycle. I'm really excited about it. Variability, altering that volume plus or minus 20% or more. I'm just going to kind of see how this all turns out. So I've got 25% volume today, 33% volume tomorrow, 42%. Then I'm going to take a technical day, rinse and repeat, and then I'll finish out the rest of the volume. All right, so that's it, man. Day 12, first day variability. And if you want to know more about this kind of programming, if you're trying to get stronger, trying to build your deadlift, or if you're using kettlebells and you're trying to increase your numbers there, I'm actually excited because I'm going to be republishing or making available again all of our programs on the Strongest Act blog. Thought really hard about it, and I figured I think it would be a good idea to bring all those back. So I'll drop a link in the description. You can check out our blog, and you can check out all of our deadlift programs. You can check out all of our kettlebell programs, all of which are aligned to this Delta 20 principle, variability, and that's why they've just been so successful over the last, since 2015, since we kicked those off. So anywho, man, appreciate you watching, and I'll drop that link in the description. Let me know how you're liking this series, and I'll see you on the next episode. Peace.